Good evening. This is the best crowd we've ever had at a school board meeting. I mean that in probably many different ways. The best crowd we've ever had. Oh, the masks. No, this is the best crowd we've had. When I say best, I mean best. Well, good evening, everyone. This is Tuesday, May 9th, 2023 at 6:33 p.m. We're a little late. This is the time and place for the regular meeting of the Northern Lebanon School District Board of Directors. I call this meeting to order. Director England.
I'd invite you to stand as we salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I invite you to observe a moment of silence, please. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to announce publicly that the board met in executive session this evening at 5:40 to discuss personnel issues. And the next item on our agenda is presentations, and this is a great presentation that we're really looking forward to. First presentation is the recognition of the Students of the Month for the 2022 to 2023 school year. Sorry.
Do the Students of the Month for May for announce them because they're also part of this.
Oh, up here.
Yeah. To the top.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President, do we need to adopt the agenda? And roll
Thank
call.
you. I apologize. I had the wrong agenda in front of me. I had the committee meeting agenda in front of me. Thank you for the point of order. I appreciate that. I'm looking at my agenda wondering what's going on because it even said middle school and we did that at the committee meeting. So I apologize. It's been a long day. Yes. First item on the agenda tonight is actually we need to take a roll call. So Mrs. Martin, please take a roll call.
Durham. Bucks. Here. England.
Here.
Fowler.
Present.
Williams.
Here.
Murray. Here. Klein.
Here.
Erdman. Marlowe.
Here.
Nom.
Present.
Director Erdman absent. All other members are present.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now let's move on to the adoption of the agenda. You've all had an opportunity to review the agenda for this evening. Is there a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
Motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second. Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving tonight's agenda, please indicate with a yes or an aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Now we will move to presentations, and I apologize to everybody. The high school students of the month for May are Gurleen Singh and Trevor Pierce. This award is sponsored jointly by the Fredericksburg and Jonestown Lions Clubs, and each recipient will be recognized at a future meeting of the Lions Club. Both of those students are here tonight. Is that correct? Yes, there's one. We'll recognize you specifically later on. Thank you for being here. The middle school student of the month for May is Elsie Shuey. This award is sponsored by the Northern Lebanon County Rotary Club, and she will be recognized at a future meeting of the Rotary Club. We do have our student council representative, Mr. Selby. Alex here? Okay, he's not. Okay, then now we'll move to the high school students of the month. This is recognition for the 2022 and 2023 school year.
Good evening. For most of you who know me already, I'm Dr. Ebert, the secondary principal here. This is one of the many, many honors I have as a secondary principal to honor the students for their hard work that have been recognized throughout the year. It's also a great honor to see several staff members here too, because this hard work is also a tribute to their efforts that they put into these fine students. And then obviously the parents that have supported them along the way. Which obviously many of you are here as well this evening. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go down through month by month, and then you can come up, get a handshake, get your award, and then at the end we're going to want to get one massive picture for all the students that are here this evening. Then, so for the month of September, we have Isaac England, And I believe he is working tonight. So Dad can accept on his behalf. And we have Hope Wentling. He's doing both. For the month of October, we have Hope Ritchie and James Voigt. And I believe both are playing tonight, so they can't be here tonight. Then we're going to move on to the month of November. We have Grace Baumgartner. And Surat Singh. For the month of December, we have Kenneth Battistelli. And Lauren Murray.
Sure.
For the month of January, we have Michael Arnold. And Aaron Shuey. Next, for the month of February, we have Mackenzie Hess. And Casey Weaver. For the month of March, we have Madison Hess. And Colin Wall. For April, we have Amanda Adie. And Hannah Wanyo. And finally, for the month of May, as you heard earlier in the presentation, we have Trevor Pierce, who's also at a game, and Gurleen Singh.
Photo bomb.
Be- Before you sit down, you are welcome to stay, but we'll give you about 1 minute. If you want to get out of here, you are welcome to do that. No need to hang around unless you want to.
There you go.
I don't see any takers.
No, no take.
Not surprising.
Great, thank you. And I hope everyone understands that when I say that was the best crowd, that's the reason, because they were our students. There was no other thing implied there. We'll move on to the next item on our agenda. That's the superintendent's report. Dr. Messinger.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I said no, but because we'll save the budget stuff till it's budget time. But did you want to talk about the developments of Fredericksburg? That you just have some information that you'll be sending their way with a potential buyer? I'm putting you on the spot. I'm sorry.
Yes,
Why don't I talk?
I can fill in where you need me to. I'm not sure how much you want me to share. Okay.
Well, as the board had mentioned, just continuing to look at options. Obviously, we have things on tonight for East Hanover, Lickdale. Jonestown, we believe will have something in June, and now also Fredericksburg potentially in June. Potentially.
Correct. The reason I didn't want to share too much is I gave 2 tours. Sorry, now I'm going to hijack it, Gary.
Okay, thanks.
I gave 2 building tours of Fredericksburg to 2 different educational institutions they went through. They were private. And I did tell them that if they are going to put an offer in, I need that by May 31st. And that's why I didn't want to just give numbers tonight, that because I want to be fair to the other school that might be putting in an offer. I don't want to jeopardize anybody's fairness there. So, but we do have one that came in today, and they gave us 2 different scenarios that I'll be setting forward to you guys to start looking over and giving consideration to with financing. They did something a little creative that gets us the total amount of the dollars within 5 years. So, but they do have a significant amount that they're putting down. So I will get that to you. And if any more additional ones come in before May 31st, I will share those as well. And we're looking to have those on the June agenda for Fredericksburg, as well as the IU's offer on Jonestown on June's agenda. So we do have a very strong offer and consideration for Fredericksburg now, the second one.
Thanks. I'm sorry I put you on the spot there. The other thing I just wanted to mention, just May is an incredibly busy month, and we have a full agenda tonight, so I'll keep it relatively short here. But if you have not been able to do so, there are still events to attend tomorrow night out at Cedar Crest High School. Some students will be honored. And Dr. Ebert, do you happen to recall the exact name of that awards thing tomorrow? Excellence in Education. Thank you. Thursday night is a concert. Monday night is elementary band concert. I'm in that one. So if you want to laugh, come see that. I'm not playing an instrument, but I'm narrating. So we have 2 awards shows, 2 awards banquets, one for middle school, one for high school coming up. In addition to that, we have kids participating in track in the postseason. Both the softball team and the baseball teams have made not only district playoffs, but also league playoffs. Thursday, baseball travels to Hempfield to play there, and Friday, softball plays Warwick here at home. And then we'll wait to see where the districts take us. So there's a lot going on in the next few weeks. Feel free to stop out and get to some of those events. I think on certain nights we're double booked with things. So the more folks that can get out, the better. And that's the end of my report for tonight.
Great, thank you, Dr. Messinger. Any questions from the board? Okay, hearing none. Is there any old business for this evening? None. We will move to the public comment portion of this evening's meeting. Individuals wishing to participate in the board meeting tonight were asked to register their intent with the board secretary by 3 p.m. today. Participants must be recognized by the presiding officer, must preface their comments by an announcement of their name and group affiliation, if applicable. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 4 minutes duration. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic unless all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No participant may address or question school directors individually. I just read that policy out so the public is aware of our process. I understand that we do have one person for public comment this evening. That is Natalie Snyder. Mrs. Snyder.
Good evening, board members. My name is Natalie Snyder. I live in East Hanover Township, and I am a mother of 2 children in the Northern Lebanon School District. As you know, I am also a Spanish teacher at the high school. I'm here to share with you my many concerns about the schedule changes that have been put in place for the upcoming school year. I was surprised and saddened to learn that none of these changes were discussed with the teaching staff, department chairs, or instructional leaders, and even more surprised to know that such far-reaching changes were not publicly brought before the community or the school board for input or a vote. Transparency and collaboration seem to both be missing from this equation. I would like to acknowledge that I spoke with both Dr. Messinger and Dr. Ebert about my concerns, and they were able to help me recover an almost cut AP Spanish class, for which I am very thankful. My primary concern for next year is the loss of a class period in our school day. I'm told that we are the only school in Lebanon County that still offers 8 learning periods, and I think that's an amazing uniqueness. Our students have the opportunity to choose a variety of electives and be exposed to many new ideas and life skills. With the loss of a class period, students now find themselves making tough decisions like, should I take Spanish class but drop out of the chorus? Should I try out an ag course, or will that mean that I can't be part of the yearbook? Can I fit in that extra science course that I've been planning on taking, or do I want to stay in band? Our school has some truly amazing elective programs, and I'm disappointed to know that students will have 4 fewer of these opportunities over their high school careers. These are courses that prepare students for life in concrete ways and foster creativity. Consider the student who struggles through his or her core classes, never feeling smart enough or finding success. For these students, electives provide a place to shine and feel at home. Smaller specialized classes have also been eliminated in order to have enough teaching periods to accommodate this schedule. We're told that they might run every other year, but when we see how full teacher schedules are, it's hard to imagine that there will be room to add them back. It was only a few years ago that teachers were asked to develop some new electives to offer our students. Now, some of those teachers who worked many hours to develop curriculum are finding that those doors have been closed. I am told that we need to slow students down in their academic progress to keep seniors in the building. So we will stop giving a credit to 8th graders who are placed in a high school course and slow them down. We will take away time in the schedule for advanced and gifted students to take independent study courses to reach their academic goals. We will take away scheduled time in gifted students' schedules to receive their enrichment. We will limit the number of AP courses that are available to our students, never mind the money that it saves them when they earn college credits or test into higher level university classes. I understand the desire to have more seniors in the building, but why are we trying to slow them down? Of course, class sizes will need to increase. In my experience, smaller classes with individualized attention reap more benefits than a few extra minutes of time with a larger class. The first lunch will be served to students at 10:15 a.m. I'm told that we need to shorten the school day to provide ample busing time. A quick bit of math will tell you that we can dismiss at 2:15 and still keep our traditional schedule. We did it for many years. And dare I mention study halls. Certainly, we have identified a problem in that some of our 8th graders sit in study halls for 3 periods each day. That is a separate issue that merits a creative solution. But our community has spoken vocally in the past in favor of high schoolers being permitted to choose a study hall in their schedules. We have student athletes, students who work part-time jobs, students who help on family farms, students who load up on rigorous academic classes. Those students deserve to choose a space in the day to complete work. When students are absent or need extra help, they rely on those study halls to make up tests or connect with a teacher. In closing, representatives of the NL community, I urge you to find time to speak to the teachers and students who are impacted by these changes. I ask you to consider why we are rushing into this major change without taking the time to consider all of its impacts and outcomes, and perhaps to intervene. Lastly, I thank you for your time and dedicated investment in NL's future.
Thank you, Mrs. Snyder, for your comments. There's something I would like to state, and first of all, preface this by saying that in the context of public comment, I remember when I gave public comment as just a member of the public, it always was shocking to me that the board just kind of sat here stone-faced and didn't respond. And there's a reason for that. The reason is that no individual board member is permitted to speak on behalf of the board. But we recognize that this is a significant issue. We recognize that this is an issue that has been raised by teachers, it's been raised by students. And I just want to assure both the faculty and students of Northern Lebanon that the board is interested in this. And we have looked at it individually. We've asked questions. We have known of the potential change for a matter of months. And so we've individually taken a look at it. And I think on this, and the rest of the board can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think on this, I can speak on behalf of the board generally. When we say that it's an issue of concern to us, it's something that we have very seriously considered and looked at. We understand that this change is significant on some level. I think the board, speaking for each of us, I would say that the board believes that despite those challenges, we think that this is a step in the right direction. And we're not unsensitive to the challenges that are posed both to the faculty and to the students. But we ultimately think that this is a step in the right direction. As Mrs. Snyder indicated, this is not a board issue, but obviously everything that impacts curriculum, everything that impacts the school day is something that does fall under the board's purview on some level. And I would just assure you that based on our own examination and our looking at this, if we thought that this was an issue that would require board intervention, I believe that we as a board have taken those necessary due diligence investigative steps to do so. And if we felt that it was necessary, I can assure you that the board would step in and do so. At this point, we appreciate the challenges that are faced. The board also, I think, appreciates the hard work that Dr. Ebert and the administration put into this. That includes, taking a look at some of the challenges and some of the issues that were brought up, and to conscientiously trying to address those, to resolve those issues where those issues could be resolved. So all of that to say, and again, I would like, if the board disagrees with anything that I've said on behalf of you individually, please let me know. But I want you to know that we appreciate the concerns. This is something that we're aware of, something that we've been investigating for a long time. And at this point, I think I can say that absent some intervention that I don't see the board taking, I believe that we fairly well support the efforts of the administration in this approach. Any other directors? Okay. Thank you. Okay, we will move now to items for board action. It should be noted that public notice was given for this meeting in accordance with Act 84 of 1986. By notice of the president, the following action requires a voice vote. All votes in favor shall be stated with an aye or yes. All votes opposed shall be stated with a nay or no. All members abstaining shall state, "I abstain" when prompted. The votes will be recorded in the minutes as a unanimous roll call vote unless there are any votes in opposition or abstention. If necessary, the president may subsequently call for a roll call vote to be recorded in the minutes. We will move to the consent agenda. Dr. Messinger.
Just ask that you would accept the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda? Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please indicate with an aye or a yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. My vote is also a yes. We'll move to item 9. This is the
I was a little late there. I actually didn't place a vote because I do have a question. And then I guess I didn't realize that the the purchase of the library books were part of this part of the agenda. I thought it was under the discussion agenda.
Yeah, it was in the committee meeting determined to be part of the consent agenda.
Okay.
At this point,
Well, for the record, I didn't place a vote.
okay,
My vote of record is no, mainly due to the library books.
You can vote
Just
no
on that issue.
for that specific issue.
We
So-
can note that.
The rest was, yeah. it
Yeah, the
was-
rest is yes, but as far as the library books go, my vote is no.
thank you.
Are we at 9?
We are.
Okay, I'm gonna do a little tweak. We have some folks in the audience that have shown up that I recognize that were part of the negotiation of the CBA. I first want to say that I was extremely impressed with this group of individuals that just sat down and we had some great conversations, discussions, and I thought really cordial conversations that we were able to get to a point where we felt really good about the result. I know that we had 4 board members on that committee, and then there's a group of people that I'm looking directly at. And I know that they voted today and I'm very appreciative of the results of that. But I just wanted to thank them for all their hard work and for I just thought the discussions were fantastic the whole way through. So thank you guys for being honest with me, and hopefully we were, the same way with you guys. But again, I think the result was fantastic. So I thought maybe we could do that one first, and if they want to stay, they can stay. But again, I know they're here for that, so I switched it on you.
That's fine. I just need to get my number here. Okay, 9.4. So 9.4 is the collective bargaining agreement. Is there a motion to adopt 9.4 to approve the collective bargaining agreement?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? I don't want to belabor this, but I would also just like to say, on behalf of the board, I appreciate not only the work that the board committee did, but also the bargaining unit. Just appreciate the efficiency and cordiality and professionalism by which this negotiation was conducted. I think it really demonstrates and reflects a lot upon our teachers, our staff. I just personally just wanted to note, one of my favorite things that I saw in the CBA was that the teachers obviously care about bringing in new people and what it means to have those new teachers come and be a part of Northern Lebanon and stay as a part of Northern Lebanon. I think that reflects, in addition to all of the other items, I think that reflects very favorably upon our faculty and staff. So I just wanted to say that as a matter of discussion. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving 9.4 and adopting the collective bargaining agreement, please indicate with an aye or a yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. My vote is also a yes. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I will go back to the normal order now. 9.1, before we talk about budget, Leanne is going to show a few slides to you and have a discussion about that.
Do you need me to wait till my slides are up?
I don't know. How you
How's
guys,
everyone?
are you guys having?
I don't know what to do
any
with
luck
this.
over there? It's ours says no signal.
Misunderstood you. The live stream is still on YouTube. I didn't realize you meant this.
Sorry, I didn't speak tech properly.
There we go.
Thanks,
Thank
Kirk.
you.
Appreciate it. Okay. And we can go right to the next slide. So this is a slide I show every year, just highlighting the budget timeline so that you know what to expect and what's coming for you. So obviously today is May 9th, where you'll be adopting a proposed final budget. And then May 17th is our deadline for the final budget to be available for the public inspection. We'll post it on the website and have a paper copy in the office as always. And then in June, when we have our June meeting, we will be adopting a final budget. And we also approve a homestead farmstead exclusion resolution at that time. And then July 15th is the deadline to submit the final budget to PDE. So we will follow that. Next slide. As I stated last week, we have a balanced budget. So our total revenue is coming in just under 45 million. And as you can see, there's a pie chart there highlighting the different areas. Obviously, our largest is the yellow, which is the real estate. And this revenue is shown with a budgeted millage rate of 16.0726, which is an increase of the adjusted index rate or a 5.1%. This is another slide that I typically show every year for you, and this is our LRTAs. As you can see right now, we have 11 LRTAs coming on for the 23-24 year. We had one new one, so that brings us up to a total of 11 total LRTAs that are rolling through the 10% every year added on. And the way LRTAs work, I always like to emphasize this so that everyone has a little understanding of them. So the LRTA properties, they always pay full tax on the land. However, their improvements that are added on are taxed at 10% for the first year, and they increase by 10% each year until they're fully taxable. So as you can see, I have the 23-24 percentages there of what they're taxed at, along with the assessed improvements there that are being increased each year at the 10% rate. And then this is a new slide. I wanted to show you the local revenue of some of these school districts in Lebanon County as a percentage of total revenue. So what this is showing is not just real estate taxes, but the other taxes that we collect from our residents. So this includes some earned income taxes, as well as some real estate transfer taxes that makes up our local revenue. And this is a percentage of our total revenue. So what this means, as you can see, Northern Lebanon School District is on the right-hand side there. It's kind of like the green box. And we are at 59% of our total revenue being local revenue. And that means that we are relying more than these other school districts on state funding and a little bit of federal funding than we are on our local taxpayers. So Northern Lebanon School District, compared to these 4 other Lebanon County school districts, is getting less money from the local residents to educate our students. And we're relying more on that state funding. So I just wanted to illustrate that up there for you. This is another slide that I typically show every year. I did add to it a little bit for tonight. So as you can see in there, we have the school districts. And then the next column, I'm showing the average home assessed value for each school district in Lebanon County. And then also I threw in here the median home income for each school district in the county. And then the third column over is the millage rate for 22-23, what it is currently this year, along with the increase that their school boards had approved for this year. And as you can see, Northern Lebanon School District is the lowest millage rate in the county at 15.2927. That's for our current school year. And that was after a 4.3% increase. And on the bottom, I highlighted for you that, and I'm sorry, it says 22-23 tax. It's the 23-24 adjusted index rate is 5.1%. And using that increase, it would bring us up to 16.0726. And then also we have the PDE approved exception that we looked into, and that would be the 6.5% increase, which would bring our millage rate to 16.2880, still keeping us under the majority of the school districts in the county, if they didn't raise taxes, which is unlikely. And again, this chart should look fairly familiar to everyone. I show it every year. So this is the potential impact of the 23-24 tax increases to the average Northern Lebanon School District homeowner based on the average home assessed value of $186,000 in our district. And as you can see, a 0% is in that first column there, just to kind of give you a comparison. And then the 5.1% comes out to approximately $145 to the average taxpayer annually for them. And the 6.5% would be $185 over the course of the year to the average taxpayer. And then right there in the middle in blue, I would like to draw your attention there. That is the additional tax revenue that is estimated to come to Northern Lebanon School District based on these tax increases. This, like I said in the beginning, we have a balanced budget this year, meaning our expenses equals our revenue. And as you can see, we're right under the $45 million mark again with expenses. And as always on this slide, I like to highlight to you that the two largest chunks there, the yellow and the blue, are the salaries and benefits. That is the largest expense to our school district, which is obviously significant to us, but also shows the importance of our personnel because they are what directly impacts our students. On this chart, I am highlighting just some significant expense items that I wanted to bring to all of your attention. And once again, as typical, our charter schools are significant to the district, and we are budgeting about 1.86 million for next year on that. Our salary and benefits decreased 1.1 million in expenses, and that is because of the consolidation of the elementary school and some anticipated savings that we're anticipating to have once we get into that one building and don't need the personnel for 4 buildings. And we have done that through natural attrition over the past few years. This was expected. It's not going to be on anything sudden. So the V3 expenses, we're also anticipating some savings there, about 500,000. Our bond payments did increase this year. They went up by 400,000. We're looking at some technology improvements that we put into the budget of 150,000. And that is basically, we are going to move the iPads into some kindergarten and then also the Chromebooks a year earlier. And we have a proposed capital project of $100,000, and we would like to do some improvements to our walking trail, making it macadam further where it's getting washed away. However, we're looking into that just to make sure we don't want to have an impact to our cross-country athletes. So we are looking at doing that. It is in the budget because it's something that we know does need to be improved upon. And then, as always, we have a budgetary reserve, and we are going with the same amount in that of the $200,000. And this is our final slide. And this just shows you our ending fund balance for the general fund, where it has gone over the past few years and where it was budgeted at for the 22-23 school year. And the audited numbers for last year are there. And I also just wanted to let you know that you'll be seeing this. We'll bring up the ending fund balance again in June. And we will have a recommendation for some fund balances plus the resolution. We did one last year where we moved additional funds into the assigned or the committed fund balances, and we will be doing that again in June. So that is the end of my slideshow. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Okay, so we were asked to do 2 budgets, or we generated, or I volunteered Leanne to do 2 budgets. So the first one would be a budget at the index. That would be letter A. And the second one would be letter B, would be a budget with the exception included. So that would be B. So after discussion, we would need a motion for one of those 2. Well,
Actually, I think what we'll do is, given that we have an exception on the agenda, I think what I will do is I'll receive a motion to approve the budget at the exception. And then if that fails, then we'll go to vote on alpha, on subsection A. So we'll get a vote on that. So I think that's the way we'll do that, unless there's any objection. I think that makes the most sense from a procedural standpoint. So we'll take a motion and then a second, and then we'll open it up to discussion. So is there a motion to adopt item 9.1B as in Bravo?
Motion to approve option 9.1B.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Director England, second, only because I was looking at him. Okay, discussion.
Responsible board members make all of their decisions through the lens of how their choice helps to support the mission of the institution. Our mission statement is, quote, to provide a learning environment that empowers our students to discover and pursue their educational interest and prepare them with solid academic skills to achieve their aspirations and make a positive impact in their communities, end quote. I don't know anyone who is a fan of increased taxes, but if I am to take seriously the mission of NLSD, then I am compelled to look at more than just the immediate impact of my vote and extrapolate a few years down the road. Former NL boards chose to not raise taxes for multiple years, which put our district behind where we needed to be to stay competitive, and also caused the state to cut funding rather significantly. Because I support the NL mission statement, and because I have a deep conviction that we owe it to the students of this district to best prepare them for the future, I will be voting for the 6.5% tax increase.
Thank you. Any other discussion? I think I will just say that I think I said most of what I needed to say last month during committee. I think this job is one that requires you to balance a number of competing interests. And as I've thought about this over the course of the last week, even, I think everything that we do is a balance of competing interests. And that means balancing the interests of the taxpayers, of which I'm one, with the interests of the district itself, which includes our needs to staff the district well, includes our needs to provide the most opportunities we can for students, in addition to everything else. One of those interests that I feel like I have to balance is my own personal interests, not just as a taxpayer, but ideologically. I cannot stand property taxes. Confidentially, I think they're illegal. But it is what our state has implemented as a legal revenue process. It is the only way that we have, at least until Harrisburg decides to change that methodology. It is the only way that we have as a school district to raise the proper revenue that we need for the district. If you were to ask me personally if I think a 6.5 tax increase is something I'd like to do, I certainly is not. It's going to impact all of our bottom lines. It's going to have to do that. But in balancing the interests of all the various stakeholders that we have, I do believe that it is the right thing to do. And in fact, I think it is the right thing to do because it sets us up for long-term success. I think we could do the index today. That would set us up for success. But I think 6.5% sets us up for long-term success. So I am in favor of it. And when I say personally, I think property taxes are illegal, I'm not making a legal assessment. I'm not serving as an attorney in that way. I just wanted to be clear with that. But I am going to vote in favor of 6.5, understanding that this impacts our taxpayers, but understanding that I think the benefit that it provides far outweighs that potential impact, at least for now, sets us up for the future and sets us up in a position where we can, in the future, hopefully pursue lower tax increases. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. No other discussion.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Director Murray.
I was waiting to make sure I wasn't interrupting somebody. Yeah, so I certainly understand all the points that have been made. And voting on, as you all have said, voting on taxes is, not the most fun part of our job. But Sunday afternoon conversation with family members, conversation with people in the community. While we as a district have had a tough time, we also have community members that have had a tough time. I honestly am even having a hard time swallowing raising it to the index. So raising it above that just feels really, really, I understand we want to plan for the future. I just, and in my own budget, that would be, in my own personal budget, that would be my plan. But in utilizing our taxpayer money, I just want to make sure that we're doing it wisely. I do believe that we have to raise to the index. I have a hard time swallowing that, but I understand the benefit of it. I understand raising to the index allows the state to recognize that there is need there. And that is really the only way to kind of express there's a need there, but I don't see the necessity to raise above the index. For B, I will be voting no. Thank you.
Director Bucks.
I don't want to add too much more than I said last week. Just reiterating again, I don't like taxes. Nobody likes taxes. That goes without saying. But we talk a lot about what we want to accomplish for Northern Lebanon. And that got me, or a couple Sundays ago, I was challenged to consider and share with neighbors around me, what are my priorities? What is important to me in life? And then as a follow-up question, share where do I spend my time and my money? And then reflect if those things match. if we want to say our priorities for Northern Lebanon are improving and putting support systems in place for students and attracting and retaining good faculty and staff, then we need to put our money where our mouth is. We as a community, if our community wants a good school that we can be proud of, if we want good athletics and want good music programs and want good academics, we need to have the support systems in place, and that means money. I don't like 6.5. I didn't like it when we voted to pursue if we can go above the index. But in seeing what that does to our budget in the next few years, we don't know what our index is going to be next year. We could be looking at an index of 2%. I don't anticipate that, but it's possible. The possibility of going to 6.5 this year, although it's painful for me, it's painful for all of us up here. I think it is the financially responsible thing to do for our kids and our community. My other thought is just something to remember, something to bring up in conversation with our neighbors and our friends. Ms. Martin talked about charter schools in the budget for almost $2 million. If we want to keep kids here in Northern Lebanon and not looking out at charter schools, we need to invest in Northern Lebanon. $2 million could do a whole lot of good here at Northern Lebanon. But if we don't continue to enrich our programs here, we're going to continue to see those numbers grow. We also need to continue talking to our legislators about that charter school number.
Thank you. Any other comment? Okay, hearing no more comment, thank you for the comments. Robust discussion. Mrs. Martin, I'd like to have a roll call vote on item 9.1B.
Bucks,
Yes.
England,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Murray,
No.
Klein,
Yes.
Marlowe,
Yes.
Nom,
Yes.
7 yes, 1 no, motion carried.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Okay, so with item 9.1B carrying, that makes item 9.1A moot, so we will remove that from the agenda. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. We'll go to 9.2.
And before I do, I just got an email from Alex Selby, who had a transportation problem and couldn't make it. I'll read his report quickly. The student council is currently having elections for new officers. So far, we've elected a new president, Catherine Eisenhower, and a new vice president, Alan Zemba. In the coming weeks, we will be doing elections for all the other positions. We got cookies for all the teachers on Teacher Appreciation Day. And we are running a table for community night. We plan to do pin the tie on Dr. Messinger. Well, I did ask for a picture. I wasn't quite sure what that was for, but yes, I know. Yeah, they told me, they warned me. Okay, 9.2, we moved this to discussion. We had some public comment last week. I thank you, Dave, for joining us tonight. Dave's given some guidance along the way. We have two agreements, A and B. A is East Hanover, B is Lickdale. I don't think East Hanover, if there are no questions, we probably could vote on A, which is East Hanover, and then discuss B, Lickdale, unless you want to do it differently.
Let's do them both together.
Okay. Questions for Dave, or Dave, did you have comments from the discussion last week? I think Dave Walker filled you in.
Am I good? All right.
Yes.
So my understanding is that there were some questions as to why we chose to enter into an agreement with DGS and the Veterans Association. I believe that's the major thrust of those questions. Is that correct? Okay. So school districts have three ways they can sell real estate under the Pennsylvania School Code. One, we can do sealed bid. Two, we can do public auction. Three, we can do private sale. Private sale breaks down into two categories. One is if it's a purely private sale, it's negotiated with a private entity. We have to get court approval. We have to go through a process where that's advertised, file a petition, get 2 affidavits of real estate professionals who will tell us whether or not that's a good price or not. We present that to the court, and after the public notices are given, anyone can come in and public comment on that, and then the court makes a decision whether we can sell the property for that amount or not. The second way for private sales to happen is there's a defined set of entities out there. It is other municipalities, other school districts, authorities, the state government, so on and so forth, who are exempted from that process. The concept or theory being that they are the public money that was used to buy and develop the real estate properties that school districts have the same mission for those other entities. So the public money that was used is kind of being transferred over to another public entity to further that mission, that use, whatever the case may be. So in furtherance of putting these properties up for sale, we also acquired current market value appraisals. Is that correct, Ms. Martin? Yes. So I understand that there is some theory that perhaps we could have gotten more had we listed Lickdale, East Hanover, whatever the case may be, buildings, if we put it on the open market. That may in fact be the case. The fact of the matter is we have 2 properties on either side of the school building that have been on the market for many months at I would call inflated price based on some information we have. And they have not moved, and in fact have not had very many offers, is my understanding. So while you may have gotten potentially more value or more money in an offer, you would have additional carrying costs by carrying those properties until all the conditions of the sale are met. Oftentimes private sales with private entities will involve financing requirements. So there's other steps that have to be done. And if the bank or the lender falls through, they're not going to be able to purchase that. They may ask for zoning approvals, subdivision approvals, so on and so forth. So while there's some good with additional money, there's some extra strings that are attached to that. And during the meantime, we have those carrying costs that we talked about. So there's a trade-off for trying to pursue the higher dollar value. In this instance, I believe that when we presented the appraisals to DGS, to the state, they said, that's good with us. So presumably those current market appraisals took into account the current market conditions and gave us a valuation that takes into account what we could have gotten on the market. So from that context, the board made a responsible decision by just saying, okay, here's the appraisal. Here's what the current market value is on according to our appraiser. Our purchaser offered to give that to us. We've entered into an agreement to that extent. So from the valuation standpoint, I think that it makes sense to pursue it this way. Could you have done it another way? Absolutely. But the board did not make I would say, irresponsible or an arbitrary decision to pursue the matter they did. I don't know that I got the questions on the specific questions with regard to the sales agreement. So if there are any particular questions I can answer, I'm happy to do so.
Dave, thank you so much for being here. First of all, I know that it's an extra amount to bring you out here, but we appreciate it. And I think, just from my perspective, I think it's good to hear that publicly stated what we received as advice of counsel. It's good to have that publicly stated, and you stated it better than we could have as a board. So I appreciate that. One of the questions that was raised by the public, and I think it was one worth exploring, was the 180 days that was included within the contract.
Mhm.
Was that a requirement from the state? Was it a requirement from as a function of doing this type of deal that we did? Is that a necessary function of the contract, or
Yes.
what was the nature of that?
Unfortunately, the Commonwealth does not move fast. So there are various levels and various approvals that have to be received and signatures that go on this agreement. I think there's probably 4 or 5, if not more. So it has to get to the comptroller's office, so on and so forth. They have to order the money, even though they have it. So there has to be arrangements made within the bureaucracy in Harrisburg. They have to come up with that money. So much of this is going to be tied into the bureaucratic processes that happen at the Commonwealth level. They have also asked for some time to just do some follow-up due diligence. I believe they have all the information that we have. They've been very cooperative. So they've been through the building. I don't expect to hear of any major find after they go through the building, but it would be reasonable to give them 30 to 60 days. And from what I understand, it could take 3 to 4 months just to get the signatures in place. So from that perspective, we're looking 5 to 6 months out anyways. If they can do it sooner, my understanding is they will, but it gives them plenty of time to get through that process. And quite honestly, with sales agreements of this magnitude with public money, you want to have, I say, set your expectations high and maybe shoot a little lower so you come back a little bit. So if we come back in 6 months, everyone will be really happy.
And if we had chose to list the properties instead, there'd be a good chance that they'd be listed for more than 6 months.
Absolutely. There's certainly that possibility out there. I mean, one of the conditions in the market right now is if there's a financing requirement, the rates are up. So the commercial rates are up higher than they have been in some time. This is the cash buyer. So whether or not they have to, it takes a little time to gather that money. They don't have to borrow at an interest rate. They have cash to spend. So usually cash is king when it comes to any sort of sales agreements. So that's why this makes a lot of sense as well.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions for Dave? Okay, thanks. And once again, thank you for making the trip out here.
I just followed Brooke.
Great, thank you. Okay, we will proceed with this as a single motion since we do have 2 sales agreements up. So 9.2 includes both the agreement for the sale of the East Hanover building as well as the Lickdale building. So is there a motion to adopt and approve item 9.2?
Motion to adopt and approve item 9.2.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Bucks. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of adopting item 9.2 sales agreements, please indicate with a yes or an aye.
Yes.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. My vote is also a yes. Thank you.
See you, Dave. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
Okay, I'm going to do the remaining 9 item 9s. 9.3, we talked about junior high girls volleyball last week. We didn't have the Dr. Kuiper's slide attached that there for you. We've had success at the high school level with girls volleyball and quite a bit of participation, up to 28 actually in the club volleyball at the middle school level. So he's recommending we make that official at this point and go PIAA with it. 9.5 employment, Hunter Shiroki, a student for the summer work crew. Tabitha Backenstos, a full-time custodial substitute, and Daniel Mineta, a day-to-day professional substitute, is listed for you. And then in addition to that, our extended school year list of staff is listed for you there as well for hire over the summer.
Great. Any questions on any of those items?
The budget that's there for the middle school volleyball, is that already included in the budget that we approved or pre-approved? Or is that something that's going
That's
to
a
need,
fantastic question.
or is that, will that need to
Dr.
be added
Williams.
for the next meeting?
We'll have to probably eat that within the athletic budget. We didn't have that on there. He didn't have that in his original. did
I'm
we?
sorry, I had a side conversation. Bring me up to
Did
speed.
Dr. Kuiper, I think this came after he submitted his budget for,
Middle school.
yeah,
Yeah, I think
Dr.
we'll be
Kuiper.
okay.
Yeah, I think we'll be okay too. We always have some buffer in there, but for that a dollar amount, we wouldn't need to adjust anything. We'll probably do a transfer at some point if we need to.
Great. Good question. Any other questions? Okay, we're gonna pursue these as a single item then. Is there a motion to approve items 9.3 through 9.6?
Motion to approve 9.3 through 9.6.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of approving 9.3 through 9.6, please indicate with a yes or an aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. My vote is also a yes. Okay, that takes us through our discussion agenda, and that takes us to item 10, information.
Nothing beyond the dates that I talked about earlier.
Okay, we'll move to 11.1. That's reports. Change order committee. Dr. Bucks, anything to report?
Nothing too significant. We did meet on April 24th. There were 4 change orders, 3 for the elementary, 1 for the field house. As that there was some additions we needed to do because of inspections or meeting code or differences in interpretations of code. Those 4 totaled about 25,000. We met yesterday, 2 change orders for the elementary, around 5,000 total for those.
Okay, thank you. Good report. CTC, Director Klein.
Yes, I noticed you guys all have ballots in front of you for this year's CTC operational budget. I talked briefly about that last meeting, and make sure to turn those into Ms. Martin. Thank you.
Great, thank you. IU 13, Director Murray.
No report this month.
Thank you. Legislative Liaison, Director England.
In the anticipation that it'd be a long meeting, I opted to skip my report this week.
Okay, great, thank you. And PSBA, Director Bucks.
No report this month.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move to item 12. Is there new business for this evening?
I do have some new business.
Okay, Director Marlowe.
Sure. So I would like to suggest that we work on and propose a draft document for discussion at our next board meeting on the topic that undoubtedly will be difficult for all of us, and yet I believe is something that we must address at this time. This topic has been in news for districts around the country for the past few years. And while I do not want to thrust us into the news, I also don't want to be in the news and reacting in a defensive posture versus having had a well thought out policy and approach to the potential concerns that come along with this topic. This topic is multi-use privacy facilities, or better known as bathrooms and locker rooms. This topic has become a lightning rod of sorts for schools, in large part because they are reacting to situations versus planning, communicating, and adjusting prior to potential concerns. As most of you are aware, this has become a topic of conversation that is tied to the gender discussion that is going on across the country in virtually every private and public organization. That said, my reason for bringing this to a discussion right now is to make sure it's not a reaction to any single individual, and rather the topic as a whole is addressed. I have 3 main reasons or objectives for bringing up this topic now. I want to make sure we are creating a safe environment for all students at NL, all students. I want to make sure we are giving all teachers, administrators, staff, and in the district as a whole clarity to our policy and the steps we take when the policy is challenged to keep everyone safe and out of trouble. Finally, I want to make sure our policy and approach are crystal clear to all parents, guardians, students, and the community that uses these facilities. Unfortunately, I'm confident that our students, parents, and community are not well versed in what our current policy says about this topic, in part because some of these topics keep changing in the public. In my opinion, our current policy, tied with current case law, creates an unclear or unknown approach for parents, teachers, and administrators, which means it opens us up to other challenges. I believe that the current policy and its lack of clarity put us at greater risk. If our goal is to protect all students, a policy and the steps needed to uphold that policy must be clear to all involved, or we risk missteps when we try to react to situations that require it. Again, this is not about an individual group. It's about having a clear policy on it. The reason for bringing this up now is not to generate news for the district or social media clicks. It is about being proactive to protect all students, teachers, staff, and the community, and to provide clarity to everyone on this very sensitive topic. That said, I do not know where this policy will land, other than my goal to make sure there is extreme clarity for everyone that comes to NL. A school board is often referred to as a team of 10. That includes the 9 school board directors and the superintendent that often craft and update policy. That said, the 9 directors are part of what is called a representative democracy, meaning because we are elected by the community has the right to influence us to shape policy. I would encourage everyone to do that, but please do that in a civil manner. I would love to show that the board and the community can work through this topic like we have other difficult topics in a very professional way. Raising our voices at each other or negative social media posts is rarely effective in influencing someone to come to your side. There will no doubt be legal input on this topic, as important as it is. However, I want to make something very clear to the public and my fellow board members. Legal counsel is just that. It is counsel or advice to us. We owe it to those we represent, including students, to take that counsel and make the best decision overall. I want to reiterate that the 9 board members will ultimately vote on a policy. Although the 9 board members will vote on a policy, it will be based on input from the public, legal advice from the solicitor in the end. We must absorb the legal counsel, the public input, the staff input, and then decide to drive the outcome that we collectively think is best. No matter where you stand on this topic, please remember that we are talking about children with a goal of making sure education is priority 1 and we limit their distractions. As board members, I'd ask that we do not make more of this than needs to be. We will likely receive requests from the media to provide sensationalized headlines. That is not the goal of this process, and by providing that, we are taking the focus off the kids. So I would ask that we walk through this process, with caution, that we let the process play out and let the media know that we, as a team of 9, are working through this process for those 3 reasons I mentioned before. Making sure we're creating a safe environment for all students at NL. Make sure we are giving teachers, administrators, and staff clarity to enforce a policy and provide absolute clarity on this policy and process to parents, students, and the community at whole.
Okay, thank you, Director Marlowe. So Director Marlowe, as an item of new business, has proposed that we explore a policy to address this. Because this was not on the agenda for this evening, this is not something that we can deliberate, although I think it would be appropriate for questions to be asked, but no deliberation on the substance of what has been proposed. I would suggest, and we can work on this over the course of the next month, but I would suggest that we develop a recommended policy as a board. We can do that based upon the request of Director Marlowe. We can do that in the context of the current policy process. We could also form a committee that does that, and with public notice and participation of the public would develop that proposed policy for the vote. So just for clarity on items of new business such as this, when these are proposed, we will not deliberate these now, but the policy itself, assuming we are able to develop one, would be the subject of the vote. So questions for Director Marlowe, or any questions for the presiding officer?
I have a question, and this is for Dr. Messinger and Dr. Ebert. Well, 2 questions. The first is, we already have a policy that directly addresses this issue, and it is within the current state of the law, correct?
I would say that's correct. If you think about the exec session that we had with Brooke, with Mrs. Say, I think at that point she had mentioned Stock and Leader was working on, there were several different things that were currently going on. I believe also was mentioned that she was working on a draft policy, which I received that not too long ago from them. I haven't really, with the CBA and everything else, haven't even really been able to digest it myself. And I know there's other caveats to it. We were warned by Mrs. Dalton that there were some things that I think were, from an administrative procedure standpoint, that we'd have to examine. So I don't know that I don't want to What I can tell you is that the policy, when we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, I think yes, the answer is yes. However, I think things, I don't know. I'm going to default to you if things change. You at least came up with some wording for a policy that you guys felt you could stand behind.
Yeah, so as we do with all of our clients, when we talked about this in executive session without revealing confidentiality, I can affirm that your policies as currently stated in the policy book are in compliance with current law. So you're not doing anything illegal. As far as exploring other policies, as we've told other clients, we've developed additional policies relative to facility use that are being vetted in other school districts right now to provide additional options for our clients to consider on this topic. A copies of that has been sent to Dr. Messinger for this board to consider. And I think it's appropriate for that process to go on and for that policy to be considered and deliberated at a series of meetings as you would any other policy process. Whether that policy is ready for consideration at the next meeting, or you decide to have discussion first and then present it, all of that is up in the air, I think. But what I have heard is a request for a business item next meeting to talk about this process. You have a policy that's already here for consideration. You can refer that over to your policy process if that's the administration's will. Otherwise, this has to be moved to a public meeting where the public has notice to talk about it and comment on it, if that makes sense.
Can you say that last line?
So the item that was brought up for new business is not listed on the agenda. So the public had no notice in order to provide public comment. So the board cannot deliberate on it under the Sunshine Law.
Thank you. My follow-up question is for Dr. Messinger and Dr. Ebert. Is this topic one which our teachers and administrators deal with on a daily basis that directly affect the education that our kids are getting?
I don't think so, but I'll be honest with you, those conversations, as we've talked about in the past, guidance deals with those conversations more so. And a lot of times those are private conversations where the student talks with specifically to the guidance counselor. And frankly, I honestly, they do not tell me about those conversations. I mean, I think we've made it clear, we've talked about this at least twice in board meetings, what the policy is. And I know we've talked about the law behind it. But I don't know that I can safely say one way or the other how much of a conversation that is currently for those folks.
And if I could just kind of reiterate a point, and that is, I want this to be proactive. I'm not saying we have today an issue with this or a problem with it, but it is ending up in school boards, and those school boards are reacting versus responding, and we have a chance to respond. The law is changing on this one on, a somewhat regular basis. There's new information coming down on this and other topics that relate to it. And I think we need to be on top of it versus reacting. And that's why I'd like to see us, put this policy out there and work through it. Again, I don't know where that policy lands, other than I do want to make sure we do those three things, that we're protecting the students, the district, and making sure parents and students really understand, what the policy is, so they can react appropriately.
Okay. So speaking with council, I think there are a couple of possibilities here. I candidly, I do not know where this board stands on the proposal for new business. We could develop, if, as solicitor had indicated before, if administration is willing to take that on, to develop a proposed policy for review and approval by the board. That is an option that we can do. That is how we do every other policy. Or we can put this up for discussion and a vote in June for pursuit of a potential policy by the board. So I guess question is for Dr. Messinger. Yeah. If you don't.
I mean, I think we're in a position as administration on this that we need to know the board's stance to determine whether or not a policy should be presented.
Okay, good. Then next month we will put on the agenda a discussion and a vote as to whether we pursue a policy. Okay. Great. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Director Marlowe. Thank you, Mrs. Say as well. Okay, thank you. Is there any other new business for this evening? Okay, hearing none. Dr. Messinger already indicated a number of items on the calendar to be aware of. I just want to note under item 13, a couple of important dates to remember. First being May 31st, that's the baccalaureate at 7 o'clock. And then, of course, obviously, June 1st is our graduation ceremony. I do believe that all of the directors received their regalia for the commencement ceremony. If you have not, please touch base with the secretary and we'll make sure that you get the appropriate things. That is all that I see for today. Is there a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
Motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
Second.
Director Marlowe is a second. All in favor of adjourning, please indicate with a yes or an aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. The way we did it before, when yeah, we'll do.